He goes in. I thought.
Hi, this is Chris Simon,
Tracy, Royce,
Luke Rodvold,
and this is the Redroom. Tracy, Luke, and I jump on every week to talk about real estate, acquisition,
a lot of fix and flip,
and design,
dispositions,
Airbnbs,
financial independence, retire early.
We always have a new guest every single week.
We're going to have a lot of fun, all right?
So if you're interested in any or all of those, make sure to join us on the Redroom podcast.
And subscribe to the Redroom.
Share it with your friends or join us on the Phoenix RIA Facebook.
Woo!
That is such an epic intro. That last little boom always gets me.
Nice.
It's almost like we're professionals, guys.
We didn't have Luke on before, and now we got Luke on after. Like,
yeah,
I'm here.
Slide in during the intro.
Oh, hold on. Nope. There you go. A little bit better.
And that amazing backyard he built. Nice.
Hey, I'm at home. I get to be at home right now during this one, so I am excited.
It's a screensaver. That's what I'm going to say.
All right, guys. Well,
what's happening?
What's up, brother?
Good to see you.
Well, thanks for jumping on, guys. It's the 122nd. I think Tracy's now officially past 25 official Red Room guests are with us. So it is a interesting market out there. Obviously, we were cranking through the spring. Everybody was announcing on every social media platform that we are on the 3 or 4 year low of interest rates. We had dipped under 6. And this is what entrepreneurship is all about, right? Mm-hmm. You think you have it all set up, you have a plan, and then it just gets all moved around, and then you got to come up with a whole new plan, right? So that's kind of what it is. But we have literally stayed at like in the 25,000 unit active for Phoenix, literally this whole time, like. February, when we were all getting excited, it dipped down to like 23,000. War starts, we pop up, and we've just stayed in that 25,000. This whole like 45 days, we haven't dipped any lower. I mean, a few hundred units here or there, but we just stayed right steady Eddie. So people are still buying stuff. I saw a national report from Redfin that, we're still up from last year. As far as units sold, not like by some massive number that I expected. I expected a much better spring than we had, but it's still not like the sky's falling, right? So still people are still out there. And we actually, as of today, our 10 years at like 4.23, and it only a dip to like 3.95. So we're really only 25 basis points or a quarter point above where we were when the war started. So obviously inflation grew last month. It grew from 2.7 to 3.3. That was just the first round. Obviously it should probably tick up again and again because of so much stuff that is made by oil. But I mean, it's kind of, I gotta admit, I'm a little bit kind of down the rabbit hole. I get on every morning and I'm like, what's happening now? And there's so many different, variations of what people are having. And I don't want to get down there because there's like 10 different variations of what people really think are happening.
It would be a great podcast though. Just putting it out there.
I think we'd need like 2 hours.
Yeah.
But, and if we had Carlos on here, he's got like a different explanation of all what's going on. Right?
Oh yeah.
So, but anyway, Rafael, thanks for jumping on. What's ironic is it's weird. I only see Rafael unexpectedly at steakhouses. I think every time
that is a pattern.
Like I'm sitting at the corner of a steakhouse and I look down the bar and there he's sitting there. And then
really?
And then
where does this happen? Which place?
True story multiple times.
Yeah, true story multiple times. Like City Hall once. But it's probably been 3 times. And I'm just like sitting at the bar by myself, getting ready to order a steak. And there's Rafael.
I stalk you secretly.
Yeah.
Like I know Chris has all the
Yeah.
wealth of knowledge, so it's like I'm gonna go make like I'm gonna go eat a steak and
hang out at steakhouses.
Exactly.
I think I've seen you a few times at Suns games too, where I'll spot you, you know, a few more seats up, and I call him, I'm like, I like your shirt. And he's like, what the heck's going on? You're a man about town, Mr. Cortez.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely hop around. I don't like to stay put. So yeah. No, thank you guys for having me. I'm a fan.
So what's great about the Red Room is we always get to catch up with all our old friends, right? This is like we get to bring all our old friends on, and we get to. So I mean, you can adjust anything. I mean, Rafael's a super wholesaler, been in the business for a while, runs a podcast with Victor. Is still your co-host on your podcast, right?
Yeah, we have a series. The REI Big Shots, and then I have the CEO Pulse podcast, which I've ran for years. So. Yeah,
and then he's
badass
working
badass office. You can't forget that.
Yeah. Well, and one thing about that too that's always impressed me is how much you have going on in all these different facets. You're super humble about things, so I don't think people would really know unless we peel back the curtain. So I think that's sort of what we want to do today is how do you have all these high-level operations? You're still the front man. You run each of these successfully. What does that look like if we were to peel back organizationally and otherwise how you've been able to build this?
So I do run, to give a little bit of context, I guess, I do run three different businesses. So I have CEO Pulse Capital, and then Pulse Realty and Associates, which is my brokerage. But you know, at the end of the day, they all kind of talk to each other. For example, I do a lot of mentorship. I build, SaaS products and stuff like that for wholesaling. So as I'm building community and then, talking to students nationwide and everything, we end up doing deals together, and those kind of spill into the second bucket, which is Pulse Capital, and that kind of feeds the other one, right? Sure enough, as we're doing, searching for direct to seller deals, we end up with listings and things like referrals and stuff like that for agents. So it kind of became one of those things where hey, let's see how many points of this trajectory I can capitalize on, right? So it's been a pretty interesting process just to build out the entire thing. And now, I mean, I feel like I finally got to a point where it actually runs like it makes sense. But I mean, it takes years to kind of dial in at least your cadence, right? Because I'm a big lover of the shiny object. And it's like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. Let's go kill on that. It's gonna be amazing. And then a couple of months into it, I was like, well, it didn't pan out the way that it was. $200,000 into it, and a bunch of wasted time, but that's, I feel like that's how you find the you and the whole path. And I think Luke is a very vivid example of enjoying the process as you're going through the tasky stuff, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rafael, something obviously that I just love about you is that, like, or especially about what you just said too, is like, okay, first of all about you, okay? Anytime, if anybody hasn't met Rafael's like the nicest dude ever. The second you see him, you feel like you picked up from yesterday. I just, I've known Rafael. I think we've known each other now for probably 10 years.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I think 8 to 10 years, and it's just genuine. Like when I think of Rafael, I just think of that you're just a genuine dude.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Something that I love about what you said is like finding you, because and the shiny object syndrome. We've talked about shiny object syndrome on here before, because when you're in real estate, there are so many different legs and brands and different routes that you can go, that you can switch up what you're doing, or the second that something maybe stops not working for you how it used to, it's very easy to be like, well, let me go try that then. Well, let me go try this. Let me go try this.
Abandon ship.
Yeah.
Right. And I think we're all guilty of it. We've all tried it so many different times with so many different things. At least I know I have.
Yeah.
I've tried, I'm like, oh, you know what? Maybe novations. Maybe I got to go try novations. And I'm like, what am I doing? This is not me. I'm not good at this. I should not be doing this. So, and then I end up going back to what I enjoy and what I'm good at. And then that ends up working again. And it's just, it's funny. You go through the ebbs and the flows of business. But I think what it comes down to is what you just said: sticking with what you know, sticking with what you're, what you're passionate about, and it tends to work out after that.
Well, I think we find a lane, right? Like, okay, cool. Like, for example, I'll use wholesaling. I wish I would have started with wholesaling. 2019, I became a firefighter, and then I spent years there, and I had another transportation business after that. So it took me a while to find wholesaling. I found traditional real estate. I found fixing and flipping before wholesaling. Then I got into wholesaling. I was like, oh, I like this. And I don't know, like there's certain things that you feel like you're good at, right? Like have this very cocky sense of like, I'm a good closer. I'm good at negotiating wholesale deals. And you know, for better or worse, it's turned into a pillar of everything that I do. So when going back to Tracy's question earlier, I don't think it's impossible to do multiple things. You just can't forget about the one thing that works.
Yeah.
So you create that pillar, right? And you polish that, you fine tune it, and like now it's one of the corner stone things in your repertoire. And in this case, for example, wholesaling. Now, bolting on additional things to that kind of stuff, if it makes sense, I mean, you can try it. If not, I mean, you just unbolt it and throw it back out there, right? But you got to have that one thing that you don't forget about. For example, when I started getting into consulting and then mentorship, I was already wholesaling, right? So wholesaling kind of gave me the tools for what I needed to learn, what I needed to know. And then I got into mentorship, and that forced me to to look at a whole different aspect of it. I had to hold the space, I had to fine tune my process to be able to articulate it and that type of stuff. So it became a thing that made sense to keep on as a bolt on, right, to the strategy. But even when I mean, I've had moments where it's like, I don't know, everything, it kind of cranks down and gets a little tighter and whatnot. And you start thinking, it's like, no, I think I'm going to move. I'm going to do something else. I step back and I look at the reality of things. Is okay, what's really going on if I leave my entire ego and emotions outside of this whole thing? What's going on, right? Like, what's working? Stick to that. Like, keep that right there. And then experiment and explore with other stuff. But I think we got to have that, that base, right? That one pillar that we can lean on.
Yeah.
Well, part of what I hear you saying is, and I see this on your post too, is checking the metrics and the KPIs versus checking your curiosity and ego. And this would be cool. Yeah. And I think that a lot of people, even if you've been in the business for a while, can look at the end production of people that have all these vertically integrated businesses and say, I want that, without understanding how hardcore you have to be around metrics and processes and procedures and putting the right people in place and just the amount of time and effort and labor that goes into that. But maybe you can speak a little bit more to like how important when you're picking the one thing and maybe deciding to add something onto that are your metrics and numbers and procedures and organization behind that.
KPI galore over here. So I'm big on just understanding where I'm at, how I'm running, right? There was one big thing, really big thing that I learned. I learned, years into it. Actually, there's a very big difference between KPIs, key performance indicators, so the things that actually move the needle, right? That if you change this right now, it's going to increase your bottom line right now. Like your revenue is going to go up.
I was going to say real quick, Rafael, I think you should explain what KPIs are, because there might be some people on here that have no idea what they are.
Okay. So key performance indicators. So those are the metrics and the things that we look at, right? In business, it's the things that we look at that guide, think of it as a dashboard of a car. You got to know how much fuel you have. You got to know how fast you're going. Key performance indicators, and it's the same thing for business. We have the same things that are metrics or numbers that we follow to make sense of what we're, the actions that we're taking. For example, if you have a marketing campaign and you're putting $10,000 into it, you want to know how much money you're getting out of it, right? So your return on investment is a key performance indicator. Now, one thing that happens with KPIs, it's key performance indicators, is a lot of times we just start tracking everything, and we build up, and this is speaking for myself here, but this big massive set of data points and metrics and all that stuff, and then next thing that happens is you lose track of the business, and you're no longer doing the business, you're doing the tracking, and like that's a big shiny object that I just ran into head on. And I realized, like, man, there's KPIs, there's certain things that we have to track. And then there's things that are going to be navigators. They're going to tell me how good my business is going to do in 6 months. And they're like lagging indicators. So meaning that if you change that, if you improve that, for example, if you improve talk time, right? In wholesaling or cold calling, if you improve talk time, it doesn't necessarily mean that your revenue is going to go up. It just means that, you know, you're spending more time on the phone. You could be talking about football, right? So it's so there's a lot of things that will kind of, you know, shift and throw your, make you feel good about staying busy, but not necessarily move the business in the right direction. So to answer your question, Tracy, like I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on that, because it's important to look at, right? There's a few major, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, what vertical you're in, there's a few major things that you have to look at when you're building a business. There's different stages to the business that are going to play right into it. And I'll talk about those, my business framework per se, right? But there's always going to be a handful of things. I mean, you're looking at 3 to 5 things that are going to be telling you whether or not you're doing good, right? Of course, you have expenses. Of course, you have revenue coming in, but it's not top line revenue. It's going to be bottom line revenue. And, how much are you actually keeping out of the stuff that, that's that you're bringing in, right? If you're making $5 million a year, but you're spending, 4.99 to make it happen, is it really worth it?
There's a lot of top line revenue people out there.
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, sign me up, bro. I was absolutely one of those. It's like, oh, this feels really good. And then it's like, where the hell did it all go? So, not that I want to, get into a KPI crash course here, but I think it's important to make the distinction, right? Looking at, okay, what really matters on the stuff that I'm tracking versus what's a navigator. What tells me whether or not it's a good thing, and I may keep moving forward with that, or it's gonna point me in the right direction going in the future. So so you have things like that, right? In terms of business, and I built multiple different companies throughout the last 25 years, 23 years, and I look at 6 stages. There's always 6 stages in business. If you break, it doesn't matter how you slice it and dice it, you're always going to be looking at 6 different lanes. So you have sourcing, you're going to find your lead somewhere, right? If it's real estate, if it's transportation, if it's a restaurant, you have sourcing. You got to source your leads. That's going to require a set of KPIs, a set of standard operating procedures, so meaning, processes. The next thing is going to be pre-qualifying. So you have to convert those leads from sourcing to convert and make sure that you're talking to the right people. The third stage is going to be acquisition. So how do you actually get the money through the door, and you secure, right? Like secure the bag. For example, in a restaurant, your acquisitions is not when they walk in through the doors, when they actually sit down and order the meal, right? And then you have fulfillment, right? That's in wholesaling is going to be your dispo. So those are the first 4 stages. And it doesn't matter like what business you're looking at, you're going to have those 4 stages in there. Now, one thing that I've found through the years, especially on bootstrap stuff, I'm passionate about bootstrap businesses because that's all me. And we usually get to a point where we have fulfillment, and then, okay, we get paid on the deal or we monetize it, and then we go right back to sourcing, right? But if you miss the last 2, which are measuring, this is where KPIs come in, and improving and optimizing, whatever you're working on, you're staying stagnant. You're making money, but you're literally building the rat race, right? The hamster wheel. And so the next stage is after fulfillment is going to be, it's always measuring. You always want to go back and check out the KPIs, what happens in restaurant businesses and gyms and real estate wholesaling, for example, right? We close a deal. We still have I have a practice of going back through the deals that we closed. And it was like, what happened? How long did it take to convert? What did we do right? Right. That's where the improvement session comes in. And then we look at all those little elements and then roll them right back into the processes. So it's not, when you're setting up different verticals for business, it's not, you don't build it all at once, right? You're not building all the facets or the aspects of it at once. It doesn't matter if you have a mentorship or like you still don't have the learning curve. Is going to take a minute. It's what I'm trying to get to, right? So it takes different pieces to be put together to be able to grow something in different elements. At the end of the day, you go back to a framework, and that's been for me the easiest way to understand how do I build something. What's the next step, right?
So you're saying not to just go off vibes and this seems cool and the market changed and starting something completely new?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I mean, like now the latest thing that I'm working on, I'm really excited about it. It's software, right? So I rolled out a software product a couple of months ago. I've been building it for the last 8 months, 8 to 10 months. And then I rolled it out a couple of months ago, but it's the same process. Like I still have the sourcing, converting, the acquisitions, the fulfillment, the measuring, the improvement stages. So when you're talking about, entrepreneurship, I feel like it's not necessarily complicated. It's just one of those things that inevitably you're going to learn as you're going through it. I mean, hell, I had a great conversation with Chris at one of the steakhouses, and we were when I was stalking the guy, and we were talking about the early days, right? Like, when you get started with something, you don't know what's going on, and you figure it out. The lending, you figure it out, and I don't know. It's always good to have a foundation, right? Like keep it simple. You're gonna look for the handful of things that you can track that are gonna guide you in the right path, and then follow a framework, and that's gonna give you the next step. But that's all we need, really. Yeah. So
how has that helped you in adapting to what's happening? Like, let's stay on your example of wholesaling. Might have changed here in Arizona over the last few years. So what does that look for you from your perspective and what you're doing in your business?
So after measuring and looking at ROIs and just kind of opening up a little bit more as to what I could do, I switched my model from our own backyard, because I was just wholesaling Maricopa County, to a nationwide model. And I mean, there's different things that you have to do, as far as, the nuts and bolts of it, but the stages don't change. Right. So just following the same principles is like, maybe your process shifts a little bit.
Yeah.
But again, like you turn it into this, think this is how franchises are built, right? Like they have this very linear process to everything. And if you can keep something linear, it's going to be a lot easier to understand for yourself. You're going to have a lot more clarity. But when you bring people on, you start hiring, it's going to be a lot easier to explain too.
Right.
So I mean, it's helped me tremendously, just, having that approach to it. Right. And it helped me shift. In 2023, I went from just wholesaling in our backyard, like I said, to doing nationwide. And again, it's been a learning process. You do have challenges, like you got to find buyers in all these, different areas. You get hit with a lot of little rural properties where it's like, oh, there's 3 buyers and they're all cousins.
So true.
Yeah. And that type of stuff. So, but at the end of the day, like you're going to find ways to get around that, all those little challenges if you put yourself in front of it. And I feel like one thing that we have as entrepreneurs is like, and honestly, like if you don't have this somehow built in, or you don't build the muscle for it, the no stop attitude, and I don't mean no stop as in don't go enjoy, Rome and beautiful trips. Right. Yeah. But I mean, the no giving up. If something is not panning out, is like you don't sit there and die. You shift and you pivot and you look for a solution to it.
Right.
So something that I think of, Rafael, when you're talking about like, taking it nationwide, which I mean, I've never done that, but I remember when we went to just a couple different states, some of the biggest differences was, I remember we were doing deals in Louisville in Kentucky. Yeah. I remember being like, okay. And could you just, could you go find like a title company? And it's like, they don't have title companies then. What do you mean? And it's like, no, we don't do title. We do lawyers. It's just a lawyer. Yeah. There's no title companies. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I remember it blowing my mind, because obviously I was so used to only doing things one way in Arizona, where everything goes through title company. And so I remember that being it was very strange for me. But I mean, changes like that in every single different state you go to,
Yeah, there is. I mean, you're going to tweak, things in fulfillment. For example, like if for nationwide boots on the ground, it's a very common thing, right? Like we got to run pictures, we got to run lock boxes, we got to run, I'll use the service called Go Boots, goinvestorboots.com with a Z. And, we just call those up, set up an appointment, and boom, like that was part of that acquisitions process, something we had to tweak. Okay, so instead of my acquisition guy going to the door and hanging out the lockbox, taking the pictures, which was the standard. I mean, I cut my teeth on that. It's like, oh, now we do this. If we can't get pictures from the seller, we'll get investor boots, but it stays in the same lane, right? And I mean, same thing for title. Nationwide title companies are getting more and more popular. So building good relationships with those those big companies that can fit or have, or at least brokering, services all over the place. So yeah, I mean, it's a different game, but it's very doable. Again, all you got to do is really step in there and then understand that there's a framework to everything.
I think a lot of and I think like a lot of wholesalers want to do that, to where they get into the industry, they want to go nationwide, but they're building a micro business on something that's unstable, without systems, and just thinking how bigger is better. And so how do I get there as fast as humanly possible without having those foundational procedures and framework in place? So what does that look like if you're coaching someone? Like, is the normal avatar for you someone that's in that, hey, I get a lot done in my own backyard, how do I scale this? Or like, what does that look like as far as where your students come from?
I do both. I actually do group coaching, and that model is usually for 1 to 3 deals a month, type of stuff. And then I do one-on-one coaching. That's for advanced, students, and it's two different sets of I guess, questions, right? Like one, you're teaching the ropes on the group coaching. We're usually, hey, this is how you talk to the seller. This is how you pull the lists. This is how you reach out to them. This is, kind of like the nuts and bolts of the actual, down and dirty, wholesaling, process, right? What I found is on that second group of students, you end up talking, about SOPs. You end up talking about automations. You end up talking about, getting your time back. You end up talking a lot about mindset. You get into hiring. You get into, so it's more of that entrepreneurial mind shift as opposed to that hustler, the hustle mentality and vibe that we have going into it, right? Which serves us well, but we can't. Hustle is a season. It's not a business strategy. Like, we have to systemize. We have to level out the playing field somehow, because if we don't build system, and we saw this quite a bit. I mean, think 2020, you threw a property up in the air and then Chris would buy it. And
it was already bought before it hit the ground.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, it was gone. Poof, just like that. And then fast forward a couple years, the rates adjusted, and things got tighter, right? What happened to, I don't know, 70% of the wholesaler population out there? Gone. Right? No
Same
systems.
Thing on the flipping side,
No systems, no processes. The hustle wasn't enough. I mean, and that's a vivid example of what happens when you don't build, an operation, right? We can side gig whatever we want, but you're never going to be able to disconnect. But if you build, accordingly. So, I mean, that's why I'm passionate about really like having a framework on whatever you're setting up and building foundations on that. It's because whenever the tough times, hit, or if the market is not soft, you're still going to do okay, right? You're going to come out on the other side, a lot less, competition, a lot more opportunities.
I think another thing is too, Rafael, real quick, is that, when it kind of goes back to like determining what you want and like deciding what you want to do. Cause I mean, I remember when I first got into the industry, same thing. I remember I thought bigger was better. Bigger was better. I'm like, oh, I want a huge team. I want to do, I wanted you want all like the I guess all the glory that's behind like having a big team. And I realized, after years, like, cause we had scaled and we went up, we ended up doing, getting to having a decently big team. And I realized that's not what I wanted. I mean, I really did. And so I realized that, like, it took me to actually do that, to realize this is not what I want. I would prefer a little bit less stress and maybe a little bit more on myself. And so I think that a lot of people out there have to do that same thing of like, you got to kind of decide, what do you want? Do you want some big team? Do you want kind of a smaller operation? And then, kind of make the decisions based off of that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. I think you pick your lane, right? You pick your lane, you figure out what your ideal business looks like. You got to reverse engineer from a lifestyle. I mean, it sounds really sexy, right? To buy all the toys and all that stuff, in a year or 2 years. But I don't know, it has to be sustainable. Now, what I've learned after a couple of decades in business is it's got to be sustainable, right? Whatever you build, it has to fit you. It has to be, you can't be, if not that I want to get into the whole, mindset thing, but I feel like there's one thing, one key thing that guides me on the daily, and it's very simple. I look for joy. So I count my smiles. I look for joy. It's okay. If I'm vibing good, if I spend most of my day smiling, right? I was like, great. It was a good day. And I look for joyful moments. When I was going through the grind and I had that mentality where it's like, oh, I want to build bigger. And I want, if I didn't have, like, that was not even in the radar. So I was building something that I wasn't even excited about. It was just, my ego and my back voice just, shooting me for, like, build bigger because then you're going to be worthy, that type of stuff. And at the end of the day, it's getting to know yourself. Okay, what's my lane? What do I enjoy? What's my path? And I feel like you can build a decent equilibrium between, the business and your personal life. If you can combine both and live in a space where it's like, hey, listen, I love work. I can work and I can play where I work and by design, oh my God, you're winning. But it's joy was a big thing for me to really just understand. It's crazy because it didn't happen, in my 30s. Right. Shit, man, I'm doing all these things and working all this time, and like,
but are you happy?
Really joyful? Yeah, I'm not really joyful. I was like, I'm happy when I'm hanging out with my, with my people, but when I'm at, at work, it's like, I gotta do this again. So there's ways of getting to that point, monetizing what you want to do. I mean, like, for example, one of my mentors, told me a long time ago, was like, dude, you're getting burned out, but there's so many different ways to play in real estate. Because I've always felt like real estate is a great, beautiful vehicle, right? It gets you there fast if you move smart, and so I want to take advantage of that. But I didn't enjoy the binsers. I didn't enjoy the inspections or whatever. And I thought that was the only play, right? And then I started getting to doing other things, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm still playing in the same realm. It's just different ways to play in it.
Yeah. And you've dropped so many nuggets within this, but sort of what I'm visualizing is entering the matrix, right? Where it's like, we do things on hard mode and it's chaotic and we might thrive off of that. And like, listen, I was there too, where I'm like, I'm going to have office space and the VAs and the EAs and all the, all this. And I'm like, this is not it. Right. And so simplifying it. And then I love the point that you made of getting to a point where you have that framework and you're finding joy within it. I think that that's like working within the matrix. So it really is this quantifiable thing, following these 6 points and this framework, and then also tapping into what is in alignment and brings you joy, and the convergence of those, I think, is just really the pinnacle of being a good business person. So I love this conversation. I wish we could go on for another hour.
That's great.
Yeah,
no, thank you guys. Thank you.
Love it.
There's so much there. I mean, anybody that hopefully I might actually boost this Redroom, because I think it's I get like 100 views on our YouTube channel anyway, but every now and then there's a special one like this, and I'll just throw $100 at it to get like,
well, thank you. Hey,
I have a steak dinner next time.
I don't know, brother. Think about it. That's a steak. It's a steak dinner.
But I mean, if anybody, so all the new people that watch this, there was literally, I don't know, you could make a list of points on this.
So many nuggets.
No, thank you guys for having me. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah.
We'll do it again soon.
Yeah.
Anytime.
We have next week, we have the Ria, we have Jamil and Rahima talking about co-living. There is supposed to be around 175 people there. So if you're in Scottsdale next Tuesday night, we'll be at Orange Street Country Club from 4:30 to 7 for the Phoenix Ria. It's always a good time if you want to come out and meet a bunch of like-minded people. So
before we go, how can people find you?
Yeah.
I'm really active on social media, Instagram. I mean, you can find me at Rafael Cortez, CEO. I also, same YouTube channel, the podcast, YouTube is at Rafael Cortez CEO. The podcast is the CEO Pulse podcast. So cool. I'm pretty responsive there. So shoot me a DM.
Love it.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Well, thanks for jumping on. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks,
Love you guys. Bye.
Hey, thanks for watching that episode. And this is the start of your real estate journey. There's over 100 episodes and a bunch of playlists. And please hit subscribe before you move on to the next video.